Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harrison. Each week, I'm joined by hairy, huggable, hirsute homos who love film, and we obviously discuss lots of movies and even a little bit of movie news now and then. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Jim Poliafico.
Hi, guys, and welcome, listeners, to the podcast.
And as we mentioned last week, our other amigo here, our other compadre, Will Lindis, is actually seeing like a bazillion films at Fantastic Fest right now. So he is not with us this week for the first time in like a year and a half or something crazy like that. So, Will, if you're listening to the show in between movies or something in a couple days, we miss you. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, he should be somewhere in between movie 25 and 26 by now.
Wow, yeah, so by the time he hears this, it'll be like between 50 and 51, I'm sure.
He's hitting the wall.
I imagine. Well, we are very, very pleased to welcome a guest in Will's stead. He is one of the organizers of the Sacramento Movie Bears, and you may remember him from his previous stint on the show like a year-ish ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you prefer Steve, Bubba? I mean, what name do you?
Oh, Steve. Just don't call me late for dinner. But Steve is fine.
All right.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I got to tell you, especially, I feel a little bit of trepidation about holding Will's spot. I want to do him justice, so I prepared myself. First of all, I'm pretending my big Coke here is small batch artisan super weedy hoppy oaty beer that tastes like a bowl of cream of wheat. and to capture Will's spirit, I brought a talisman. I call it my Will Lindis lawn gnome. I feel like I always have the spirit of Will with me.
It kind of looks like Will a little bit.
Yeah, the beard.
Oh,
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So spirit of Will. Wait. What's he holding? It's a 12-sided die. The die of movie critiquing, and he's going to roll it.
A 12-sided die and a boutique bottle of beer.
Exactly. Will, should I go see Bring It All, The Streets? Let's roll the die. It's a 12. That means wait for Redbox.
Nice. I think you need to roll again to confirm the Redbox crit.
Oh, nerds.
So well, we had a good time.
Oh, hashtag nerd. That's us.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Steve, it's awesome to have you back. We need to have you back more often. We've been remiss.
Damn it.
So I know, right? Just slam the desk with emphasis. So good to have you here. So speaking of having you on the show, you proposed a little bit of a wager last week, if I recall.
I do not recall.
You don't recall? As you drink.
How convenient.
I'm drinking out of my Cal cup. I do not recall such a wager.
Oh, well, we recall that rager. Maybe it was a rager.
Could be a rager.
Jim, what was our wager?
Well, the wager was about over the football game between the Cal Bears, Steve's beloved Cal Bears, and our coveted University of Arizona Wildcats, a hotly contested Pac-12 South contest, and it was a straight-up bet for a couple of movie passes, and it was kind of it was an exciting game, but kind of the weirdest outcomes I've seen in a lot of years of watching football.
And Jim, I got to tell you, that's actually kind of the norm for Cal-Arizona games. They have a history of some of the most exciting, some of the most weirdest, some of the most high-scoring games. Many, many years ago, I was at the Cal-Arizona game that went into so many overtimes that, they had to turn on the stadium lights, which there were none at Cal at the time.
Wow.
Right.
And there were so many overtimes that the next year it created a rule change and having to go to sudden death overtimes in NC2A football because of the Cal-Arizona game.
So what did they do when they had to turn on the lights? Did they tell everybody in the stands to go out, get in their cars, and like you know, orient the cars so that the headlights were facing into the stadium and turn on the headlights?
No, dude, it's Cal, it's Berkeley. It's just kind of center your chakras and make your spirit glow.
Oh,
Nice.
sweet.
Well, I tell you what, we were at the game because it was here in Tucson, and you guys scored twice in like 4 plays, and we were like,
The first 4 plays.
man, first 4 plays, we're like, okay, this is where are we going to go eat at halftime?
I said, well, the first thing we have to do is go buy Steve's movie passes.
That's right. We'll go buy the passes, then we'll go to BJ's Brewhouse or something. But it was a very, very exciting finish. Total Hail Mary there at the end. Couldn't believe it.
Oh my God! I was well as a long-standing Cal fan. I knew it wasn't over till it was over because that's just the way it is. I was actually at a movie during the game, which was an away game, and I was watching of all things Love is Strange. Awesome. But my phone is buzzing in my pocket the whole time. And I'm like sneaking out to the restroom to check the scores. Spread by 2, 3 touchdowns. I'm almost feeling okay about it. I get home during the last minute of the game, in which I think 85 points were scored in the last minute.
Yeah.
It was Hail Mary. Then you grabbed it, and I was a lot of oh shit all over my apartment.
Steve, I don't follow the Cal Bears, obviously, but did you have that sinking feeling in your stomach, like?
Oh, absolutely.
The game was maybe not going to end the way you wanted to. Yeah, I mean, Arizona never had a lead in the game until time expired, which was very weird.
Until it counted.
Yeah,
Indeed. Well,
it was a lot of fun. Kind of having that friendly bet with you, and
absolutely.
Maybe we'll have more as the seasons roll on here.
Come out to San Francisco for next year's rematch.
Perfect. Sounds
totally.
good to me.
a movie in a game.
There we go. Perfect.
And Lone Star. There you go.
Yeah. Pencil us in. There we go. Perfect. Right. Perfect. Well, enough football talk because people are here to hear about movies, I suppose. But before we do that, I actually just wanted to toot our horn a little bit, just really, really quick. I was crunching some numbers today, and we just hit the 85,000 download mark. And
crazy.
Yeah. So we're totally on track to hit 100,000 by our 2-year anniversary here in December. That would be an awesome birthday gift. Hard to believe we're coming up on 2 years. Even harder to believe Christmas is in like 11 weeks or something. I don't even know at this point.
Oh,
kind of crazy. I know. But our 2-year anniversary show will be the 3rd Hobbit movie. Again, looking at times and how things line up. So, what are we gonna do for anniversaries going forward, Jim? We won't have any more Hobbit movies to celebrate.
Well, we got a couple of big celebration shows coming up, and we better put our heads together pretty quick. We got a 100th episode coming up within like 4 weeks or something like that, and the 2 years you mentioned. So
this is doing 101 Dalmatians
for the 101st show, right?
There we
5
go.
years from now, 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah. Perfect. Love it. That's awesome. Well, if we hit 500 episodes someday, we will be very long in the tooth. I'm looking forward to that day. So, but so that's awesome. And then the other thing, we have our new website. That's been really excited. We've seen a lot more traffic to the site since we went live, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback that the user experience is way, way, way better now. So that's good. Mm-hmm. We've improved it even more. We've added a search bar to the episodes page. And while we're still in the process of bringing our back catalog over, now you can go in and it's not super pretty, but it's functional. You can just type in the name of movie and it'll pull up results, including our reviews, written, audio, or otherwise. So feel free to check that out rather than having to scroll up and down your phone ad nauseum to find the movie that you want. It should make it a little bit easier.
It was not working for my Android, let me tell you. The old page.
Oh yeah.
My Android.
Have you checked out the new page, Steve? Is it working better for you?
I have been meaning to. I'm sure it's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, put him on the spot. Nice.
Well,
yeah, it was great. It was today.
All right. Well, good. So, before we get into our review this week, and of course that review will be The Maze Runner. That should be an interesting conversation, I'm thinking. I thought we might do a little bit of movie news.
Here's my Charlie Brown dance.
Nice. Da 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 da.
Do
All right.
do 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 do.
Ty says, "Play more disco."
Nice. Well, here is the part of the show where we talk about stuff going on in the film industry right now that has garnered our interest. That's piqued our, I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call it. We talk about stuff that's happening. So, Steve, why don't you kick us off? What's happening that's got you interested lately?
Well, a couple things. A little bit of movie news, but also some other news I must share, since I do personally take credit for inventing the Movie Bears podcast drinking game.
Ah, yes, you are the father of that.
That is the game, I believe, is a shot for every trope and a beer for every expectations management. I was trying to add a new layer, but quite honestly, I was afraid most of your audience would die of alcohol poisoning after all the tropes and expectation management as it was. So I figured I'd add a food item. And what is the perfect bear food? Well, I think we've all been to those bear runs where there's always a couple guys hanging from the second floor balcony with fishing rods, dangling donuts into the lobby. That is never not funny. So, and I was trying to think of something appropriate to make the call on, and I couldn't think of something you guys did all the time. So, Brad, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. So, whenever Brad finds himself in an awkward transition and uses one of two key words, you must eat a donut.
A donut, huh?
And those times are when Brad says, "Indeed."
Nice.
Indeed.
Yay.
Or else when he's in an awkward transition and he says, keyword number 2.
Nice.
Nice.
So Brad gives us an awkward transitional nice or indeed. You eat a donut.
Oh,
Or a cookie or whatever you have handy.
I love it. I love it.
So everyone gets
awesome.
For those of you who are listening and not watching the live feed, it might be worth going back and checking this part of the live feed, especially if you want to adjust the color on your monitors, because Brad just turned a bright shade of red.
I really did. It's true. It's true. Oh man, that's funny.
I love you, Brad. I gotta pick on you.
Oh, that's all good. I'm okay with being picked on. We love you too. Oh.
So there's a new rule. On the movie news, a little bit of movie news that I came across today. I don't know if this has been discussed already, but they have officially tapped Bryan Singer to direct the next X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse. So after doing, he did the first 2 movies, Bryan Singer, and he was gone for a while, and now they brought him back on as director. So honestly, I couldn't give a crap. And Bryan Singer lost me with Superman Returns. And various stories of the cute little Twinkie boys he keeps on set, allegedly. There's nothing for me. What I really care about is apparently some casting news from X-Men Apocalypse is that they have cast Channing Tatum as Gambit.
What?
Ah, I heard that. That's right.
I will see. I will see Channing Tatum read the freaking phone book if he has a shirt on. So the most interesting thing to me about new X-Men news is that Channing Tatum has been cast as Gambit.
Interesting.
That I will see.
I'm just wondering if his accent is going to be a train wreck or if they'll just forgo the accent.
What accent is this?
Who cares? Will the shirt be on or off?
Gambit has a Gambit, the character, at least from when I've seen him in the previous film and in the cartoon series, had like a Louisiana sort of New Orleans-y accent.
I think he was Cajun, something like
Cajun, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he was played by a different actor in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The actor, I guess, most known for John Carter and some other major flops.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
now, if they were really kind of doing a good job, they should also bring in Jonah Hill as his sidekick, kind of a la the Legos movie.
Oh man, that would be funny.
Yeah. I saw the news about Bryan Singer. I didn't know about Channing Tatum. Singer kind of bounced back with Days of Future Past. Did you like that one, Steve?
I will admit. Well, first of all, I mean, I like Singer way back from
the first X-Men, right? The first couple.
No. I'm losing now one of the films he sort of got famous for, and I tease a lot. Of course, if I were to ever actually meet Bryan Singer in person, I'm sure I'd do nothing but fawn all over him.
Oh yeah, starstruck.
But from behind my computer, I'll talk crap. But yeah, I'm sure I will see it. I'm sure I will love it, and hoping for more.
Well, more casting news. Just as a quick follow-up, I was just reading that they're recasting Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Storm for the new movie as well because they're much younger selves. So
yeah, they're. I read that he's going to be playing with the timeline some more, just like he did in Days of Future Past. And he's going to be doing. He says that they really haven't covered the real origins of the X-Men.
Right.
So I think he's going to dive into that a little bit, and that's why we want to see some younger actors playing those characters. That's
what I would love. I would love Lupita Nyong'o as a young Storm. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Wow, cool.
How about Quvenzhané Wallis? I mean, let's go young.
Wow, that would be really young, like 8-year-old Storm.
What's the matter with 8-year-old X-Men? It'd be like X-Kids.
Raven Simone as Storm.
I could see her now. She'd be like, "Down in the hush, puppy, when I called up a giant wind."
With fireworks.
Oh boy.
That's right. Oh goodness. Crazy. Well,
I'll be able to bring back the younger version of Quicksilver. That was my favorite scene from Days of Future Past. I thought they could do more with his character.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll see what happens. That movie's slated for 16 or 15, I forget.
16.
16. Yes, of course.
16. It's May of 16.
There we go. All right. Only a couple more years to go. So, all right. Well, Jim, what do you got?
Well, let's see. We're going to be reviewing the Maze Runner movie on the show in a little while. So I've got actually some Maze Runner news.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, and I'll try to do this.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, Jim froze up.
Did I freeze?
Got you back.
You said I kind of have a...
Yeah, all right. Well, I kind of have a follow-up to Maze Runner, which we're going to be reviewing here. And there are 3 books in the Maze Runner series by James Dasher, right? The first movie that we're going to be reviewing today is The Maze Runner. The next book is titled The Maze Runner Scorch Trials, and that's going to be the name of the sequel movie that was announced to be released basically in a year, September 18th, 2015. So these things are apparently going to be coming rapid fire. The movie did pretty well, regardless of what we're going to say about it in the next, 30 or 40 minutes. The movie did pretty well. I think it got $30 million over the weekend, and in the U.S. and grossed like $80 million worldwide or something. So it's it's going to make its money and do very well. So they're talking about the Scorch trials for the Maze Runner to continue. And there's also talk of course, of the third movie, the third book becoming the third movie, and the name of that book is called The Death Cure.
Foreshadowing.
I'm excited.
Now I haven't read any of the books.
I haven't either. Any news yet if they're going to already decide to split the third book into 2 movies?
Not yet, but that would not be surprising.
Let's hope not. My goodness, Sally Draper. Let's hope not.
If if The Hobbit can split one small book into 4 epic movies, then
3.
The sky's the limit. Oh, 3? That's right. It's only going to be 3. I'm thinking of Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Yeah. That's right.
At least that was 3 books. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we're gonna be seeing more of the Maze Runner. So strap in.
Oh goodness.
Oh my. Oh my. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think I have some more things to say about that later.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're going to circle back.
Let's just say it'll be an opportunity.
Yes, let's just say that. It'll be an opportunity. Good call.
Mhm.
All right. For me this week, Badass Digest is reporting they've apparently seen a script for Star Trek 3, and though they signed a non-disclosure agreement, for some odd reason they're able to reveal that there's a part written in for William Shatner to return as James T. Kirk alongside Leonard Nimoy as Old Spock. And
Really?
this is the planned final appearance of Kirk and Spock together in their older forms. Now, that's not to say Old Spock won't still be in every movie, but for William Shatner, this could be a big deal. They're theorizing, and keep in mind everything at this point is theory, that unlike the part that was written for William Shatner in the 2009 Star Trek that was sort of revisioned out later on, the plot sort of heavily relies on old Kirk being involved. Don't know how that would happen. Don't know what it involves. But if true, I mean, would be, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about William Shatner coming in as old Kirk. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Have we made enough cycles through Spock's life that he's ready for Pom Far again?
Yeah,
maybe he and Kirk will finally get it on. That's the only thing I could really look forward to.
Yeah, I don't know. My first reaction was that I didn't really like the news very much, because I would really like them to focus on kind of this new universe they're creating. I think there's some exciting storylines that they could explore there, instead of always kind of going back and recycling stuff that they've already done, or bringing back these cameos and folding the timeline back on itself just so they can bring in those things. But I know that there's another side of the coin. I know there's fans out there that probably think this is a great idea, and wouldn't it be neat to have them back one more time, like Cher's farewell tour, that never ends. But I don't know. I really want them to kind of get on with it and give us just a kick-ass Star Trek movie in the current, the new rebooted universe.
Yeah. I would agree with you, Jim, because I think that as much as I love the new Trek world that J.J. Abrams created, I think he did a fantastic job with the new characters. They did. My only critique would be they relied so much on kind of condensing a lot of Star Trek canon into a couple of movies.
Right.
They jumped ahead to things they experienced later in the series or even in the movies and condensed them all into their first couple of adventures. And to bring back Kirk so soon, and even to bring back Spock, it's jumping the shark way too soon. I mean, there's no life left in this before they start really getting desperate.
Right. And I agree. I mean, spoilers for Star Trek Into Darkness. If you haven't seen it yet, shame on you. But when that movie ends, they're setting off finally on the 5-year mission. They're going out into deep space, exploring, the unknown, going where no man has boldly, gone before. So, I'm kind of a little perplexed by this, because old Spock is still back chilling out, I guess, in home territory, right? So already, I guess we know old Spock is somehow going to be involved out in deep space. Maybe it's another, view screen call. Who knows? But I'm really ready for them to just rely on the young cast and let them do their own thing and celebrate having recast these roles and let them stretch their legs. I don't understand why we have to sort of use the old guys as a crutch at this point. And this is coming from someone who loves, William Shatner as Kirk and Leonard Nimoy as Spock. I just think it's time to move on, personally. But
I'm directing my camera up to my Enterprise and Borg ship.
Oh, nice.
On my shelf there. So that's my geek cred.
That's awesome. Nice Sovereign class Enterprise E. I love it.
Huh.
Yeah. But yeah, they got a great new cast. Let them have their own lives.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Well, who knows if Bill Shatner will accept the role. I met him once at a Trek convention, and not that how he is at a convention is typical to maybe how he is in real life, but he was a complete and total dick to me. I carry anger in my heart for Bill Shatner. He basically told my dad that, I'm a fat slob. I was like 11. He's like, how can you have a kid that fat? How do you let your kid get like that? And then he walked away. And my dad and I's hopes of meeting Bill Shatner.
What a sad story.
I trust George Takei, and the stories he's told would sort of verify your take.
Indeed. I said it. Indeed.
Donut.
I have a cookie. I don't have a donut.
I have a cookie too.
Stale nut cookie, whatever that is.
I'm going with the classic glazed.
That's a good choice. Even stale, that cookie is pretty good. I may have to say that a few more times so I can finish it.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, guys, what do you say to moving on to our movie review for this week?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So, as is typical, we will give some spoiler-free advice on seeing this movie before we get into Spoiler Town. So, if you are listening live or listening through iTunes, Stitcher, or on our website, feel free to stick around for the first 10 or 15 minutes if you've not seen the film. And I promise we will not reveal anything, sort of integral to preserving the virginity of your experience seeing The Maze Runner. And then after that, we will dive into a full breakdown of the film and its so-called plot. So here we go, our discussion of The Maze Runner.
I forgot to do my Will Lindis furrowed brow of intellectual critique. Where you're going to kind of say, I disagree with your stupid opinion, but I'm going to say it nicely as if I'm almost apologizing.
Oh, is it that obvious? Will, you've been outed.
You have been, Will. We love you. We only make fun because we miss you.
And you're not here to defend yourself.
Will Lindis, no. Oh my goodness! All right. Well, as promised before our transition into our review, let's talk about the movie a little bit spoiler-free to kick things off. Jim, why don't you give us a little bit of a premise of this film, and then let us know, is it worth seeing in theaters, checking out on rental, or skipping entirely?
Oh yeah, let me set up this movie. Again, I mentioned earlier in the news, for those of you who didn't hear, this is based on a young adult novel by James Dashner, actually a trilogy of novels. This is the first installment in the trilogy. It's a young adult novel, so it's about these young kids, basically, teenagers, I would say, from 14 to 19, 20 maybe, I don't know. And they are inexplicably plopped down in the middle of this giant maze in this field, I guess you could call it, this area of the maze, pretty expansive area, called the Glade. And they have no memories of previous life before they were dropped off in this Glade. And so they're just trying to scratch out an existence, form a society, create rules. You can think of Lord of the Flies a little bit. This movie definitely would remind you of that. And what we get is these kids are trying to figure out a way out of the maze and to whatever is on the other side. And that's basically the premise of this movie. So, God, I wish I could say that I enjoyed this film more than I did, or that I could recommend it. But this ended up really being just not really a satisfying movie experience for me. I was totally on board for the first 20 minutes or so of this movie. I thought the setup was pretty good. They're setting up this big mystery. The whole movie is about setting up this big mystery. You know, why are they put here? What is the maze? What's on the other side of the maze? How do you get through the maze? and they're laying out the world and the rules that everything goes by. But by the end of the movie, and through various things, various failures of the movie, I was pretty much completely disappointed. As I mentioned, the film relies on this huge mystery to propel the plot. And I thought, like I said, I thought the mystery itself, even though it felt a little familiar to other movies that I had seen, I thought that went pretty well. But after that, I thought the lack of I don't know, realistic or deep characters, and then the ending, which we'll talk about in spoilers, was a huge non-payoff and total disappointment to me. And that's, I think, what really wrecked this movie, is that the movie totally wants everybody to focus on this big, huge mystery, and then at the end, what they reveal about the mystery and the solution just didn't really work for me. So anyway, I'll just say, it had some decent acting. We can go through some of that. Some of the action scenes were decent. And that's pretty much all I can say about it. Just not a movie that I would recommend to anybody to go see. Hopefully, as we mentioned, there's sequels coming. Hopefully, the sequels can be better than this movie was. But I don't know. What'd you guys think of it, Steve? What'd you think?
Let me restate the premise of this film for you. Right? I don't give too much away, but here's all you need to know about the plot of Maze Runner. It's a story about the most specialist teen who uses his or her special uniqueness to save society from a dystopian future by teaching everyone not to do what they're told. The end.
Which is like every other freaking dystopian teen movie ever.
Yeah, I could have described 5 different movies out in the last year.
Yeah, totally.
Visually, I don't know anything about the book, so I can't tell anyone how faithful it is or is not to the book. And obviously, the book has a huge following, so and it sold a lot of tickets. So if you're inclined to go see this movie, I would just recommend this. One, see it on the biggest screen you can, because actually it's a nicely shot movie. There's a lot going on visually. The action sequences are pretty good. And actually what I read from the box office is most, if not, a big chunk of its ticket revenue is all coming from these IMAX, big screen, widescreen, XD, D-box kind of theaters. So apparently those who are seeing it there. So if you're going to see it on the biggest screen you can, and leave 10 minutes before the end of the movie.
Yeah, but it's not 3D though. It's not in 3D.
Yeah, right. That was weird. I could not find a 3D showing.
No, it's not in 3D. You're right though. They are playing it in the big format theaters for maximum impact. Yeah.
And for about 90% of it, they actually start to kind of almost build an interesting story. You get a little bit invested in wanting to know where it's going to go and what's behind it all, and then they just crap on you as a ticket buying viewer.
This reminds me of a TV show that I watched on recently with Brad. The writing kind of reminds me of setting up all these mysteries and mysteries upon mysteries, and then not really paying off.
Why, are you talking about Lost, Mr. Pugliafico?
I am talking about Lost. Yes. This movie definitely was, for me, like a cross between Lost and Lord of the Flies.
And
Lost of the Flies?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of Peter Pan's Island.
Oh, yeah. Yep, a little bit of that, too.
Boy.
All right, Brad.
And apparently completely cast from central casting from the CW network.
Some of it.
They're a little young for CW in some cases, but
if this were the Twinkie movie podcast, we'd have a great audience for that. But
we'd be like, oh my God, they were so great! Ah!
There were a couple.
An island where they barely have any supplies. Apparently, they have an endless supply of razors and shaving cream because these people that are late teens can't seem to grow any peach fuzz.
Oh goodness!
Yeah, I know. I thought there was some good acting in here. I thought the guy who played Gally, his name is Will Poulter. I thought he was really good. He was kind of I don't want to say that. It would be too much at this point.
Yeah.
But I thought he was really good. He was in Brad, did you see with me the movie called Son of Rambo?
No, I did not see that one.
He was in that one. He was also in a movie we did not see called We're the Millers, or We Are the Millers,
Okay.
comedy that was out like a year ago. But and then the kid from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I actually liked him in the movie.
He was good. I almost mistook him for. Have any of you guys at all been watching Lost? Not Lost, but Once Upon a Time during the Peter Pan season.
I actually am 3 episodes into season 1, so I've not gotten that far.
I've been trying to find out. I'm not quite sure. He looks a lot like the actor who played Peter Pan.
Oh, okay.
But I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I thought those were the 2 acting standouts of the movie.
No.
Yes.
Well, for me, this movie was probably one of the worst movies of the year. Was I Frankenstein this year? That was so bad I forget. Was that this year?
That was last year.
No, that was this year. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe a January movie.
Yeah, I think it was like a January film. I wouldn't say it's as bad as I Frankenstein.
No,
because that movie was god awful. But I thought this was pretty terrible overall. I'm going to agree. I think the first 20 minutes of the film sort of give us the setup. It's interesting. We're learning sort of about the maze and why the people are there and how it all works. And then it all just sort of unravels into a mess from that point forward. And I didn't fall asleep. I was happy to let Jim fill that role for us.
No, you were sleeping before the movie.
I was sleeping before the movie. That is true. But aside from some of the acting, which we actually just talked about, and some of the cool visual stuff with the maze and sort of some of its like pseudo steampunk design and some of the like creatures in the maze, like that stuff was cool. But the plot itself was, Steve, you were absolutely right. I mean, it's just ho-hum, dystopian teen formula. You know what I'm saying? And it feels like ever since the Harry Potter movies have come and gone, we've had all these things try and fill that role, right? Hunger Games, Twilight, Divergent. I mean, they're all sort of along the same lines, and this feels like just
Don't
more
forget
of the
The
same.
Giver.
And The Giver, of course, The Giver. It's also trope laden. That wait, hold on, trope.
Drink.
Cookie.
No, get your games right.
Drink.
Well, mentioning The Giver, which I actually kind of enjoyed, but my understanding from people who read the book is that there were significant changes from the book to the film in order to wedge it into that young adult sort of movie formula, changing the ages of the actors and making love stories where there weren't before and that sort of thing.
Right.
And again, back to Maze Runner. There was a moment where I think it might kind of break out of the routine of the young adult movie, and might go and it might try something new. I mean, first of all, it had a male protagonist, which is pretty rare in these books and movies.
That's true.
Other than maybe The Giver.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just when you think it might actually have a mind of its own, it cops out at that mother freaking end, and it goes right back to young adult land, and like, okay, it's now just like all the others. Welcome to the sequel.
Exactly. Yep. So
we'll talk about that in spoilers, but I can't believe how blatantly they did that. I mean, it was like, are you serious?
It's pretty cray-cray, I won't lie. Very disappointing that it sort of follows that same formula. But then again, right, if it works, why change it, I guess? I mean, that's really what I try to keep in mind with these young adult novels. Like, I read The Hunger Games after I saw the first movie. I've read all the books. And really, I feel like, it's the same as Harry Potter. Like, these characters are written to sort of latch on to if you're a teen who's, like most teens, feeling like an outsider and feeling like you're not special and maybe you're not noticed. And, you're really supposed to connect with these characters and feel like, oh, I am special and I can contribute and I can change the world just by being me. And it's a very positive message. I like that. I just feel like, I don't know, man. I think I'm getting a little burned out on these YA movie plots, and maybe I'm being unfair in judging these films, from a 33-year-old's perspective. But for me, they just, I don't know, especially after The Giver, they leaving a very bad taste in my mouth.
What was the life cycle of the vampire movies? Are we done with those yet?
Those are over and done. Yeah.
Other than Dracula coming up, which actually looks kind of cool. But
The Dracula movie?
yeah.
Jon Snow as Dracula.
We've seen that trailer. It must be like
A billion
60 times by now.
As far as the sparkly young teen vampires in love, I think we're about done with that cycle. So using that as a reference point, we've got that much longer to go with the most specialist teen movies.
Yeah, that one was the worst of all. But anyway, so, well, I would say now is probably a good time to switch to spoilers. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to go over in this movie, and we should do it in a spoiler zone so that people who still want to see this movie and you know, maybe there are people who really would like this movie. I'm just saying that it failed on a few levels for me. So yeah, I say we get into spoilers and we can talk more about it for those of us who've seen it.
All right. Well, I'm officially clicking on the spoiler glitter lamp. Whoa. Means spoilers are officially fair game. So if you listen past this point, you no longer value virginal innocence in regards to this movie. You hereby agree that we will be picking your cherry in regards to this plot, so this is your time to bail out if you actually care about being spoiled about this movie. If not, listen on. We love having you with us. All right, so spoilers are totally fair game at this point, guys. Have at it. Where should we even start?
The plot holes. The gosh damn freaking plot holes were as big as my donut hole here throughout the entire movie. It was. I don't. There's other places we can start, but the a couple of plot holes that drove me nuts.
Hey, Steve,
Okay.
real quick, Steve, can I just say that's a really nice glazed hole you've got there.
Nice.
Sorry. Anyway.
I'm sorry, what's the rating of this show? Tasty too.
Yeah.
You'll take my word for it.
All right. So the plot.
Since I don't have a glazed hole here to put my mouth on.
Oh my God!
Watch you do it.
What have I started? What have I begun?
We'll save that discussion for Tumblr later. Plot holes. The plot holes were driving me nuts. Starting with, as we know in this movie, sometimes people get stung. And when they get stung, they get sick, and some weird thing happens where they go crazy. So first of all, if one of your best friends is going to get stung, why do you send him out to the maze to die? If he's going to die anyway, why not just keep him inside, lock him in the barracks, whatever, and let him die amongst friends? But maybe he goes too crazy, and they have to keep control or kill everybody, so they send him out into the maze. Okay, I accept that. Then, second guy gets stung, they go back out the maze and bring him in from the maze and save him and keep him in the little village there. Why?
I don't know.
I don't know the movie here, but that was driving me nuts.
It didn't make sense, but the movie's called The Maze Runner, and the only running that we saw in the maze was when they were running away from these like half mechanical, half organic kind of spider monsters or scorpion monsters or whatever called the Grievers, right?
They were called Grievers, but I'm going to challenge you because that was not the only time we saw them running. The whole premise is that these runners, at the beginning of the day, when the doors open, run through the maze, and they're like mentally mapping the maze as they go.
Did we see any of that?
Sure, we did.
When?
I mean, they talk about why they run out into the maze.
They talk about
when they're running back, at that point to try and get through the doors before they close for the night. And then we see the one guy like dragging the other one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, we saw them at the entrance, but we never saw any actual maze running, like them going through and mapping and like, oh yeah, this is the left turny room, or this is a circle room, or whatever. We never saw any of that, which I thought could have been fun. I mean, maybe learn a little bit about the maze itself, other than the exit point and the however many doors that open in a certain sequence. But they never really showed any of the mapping of the maze. I mean, they showed the result of it. You know what I mean? Which was kind of weird because they had this huge map of the maze, right? Or this 3D relief map of the whole fucking maze. They said, this is it. This is the whole thing. Yet they're still sending people in there. God knows why. I have no idea why.
Exactly. Maybe that's why they never showed it, because there was nothing to show. Because basically, I think the runners were basically jogging out into the maze during the day.
Right.
And since there was no more maze to be mapped, they were like ducking around the corner having a smoke.
They were going off in twos for a reason.
3 years is a long time to be alone in the glade.
Let's not venture too far down that young adult territory.
And not to say something too quick, but I realized they kept it as PG as possible, but for a lot of young adolescent men, there was zero sexual tension of any sort, not even thinking about girls.
Here's one thing that I did appreciate about the movie. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of a good and a bad thing. At one point in the movie, right, they're all males that are in the glade up to the point where we enter the movie, and then at some point, boom, up from this elevator where everybody comes into the glade from, a girl shows up.
Smurfette.
Right? She shows up, and I'm like, oh, I know where this is going to go. They're going to set up a romance, and there's going to be jealousies between the males about who she befriends and all that stuff. But they never really went there, which I thought was very, very good on the movie. I give the movie props for not going down that familiar path of, oh, well, now she's got to fall in love with somebody. Because they never really went down that path. Maybe that was going on subtly, but I didn't see much. Instead, what we got was a nice little chub chaser bromance between Tom and Chuck. Right?
Yep.
So, that was cool. But the thing back to the girl, like, why in the hell was a girl brought into the story in the first place? I could never figure out what purpose she served in the general thrust of this movie. Now, maybe it'll become apparent in the sequel, but it was not apparent here.
Well, here's what we kind of learned throughout the course of the movie was that Thomas was not just the second to last person to come up into the glade, but he was in some ways responsible for the glade. He was involved with whatever the nefarious plot was that put everybody there in some way, as was the girl.
They kept hinting at that.
Yeah, so they could be co-conspirators linked in that way. They could have been boyfriend and girlfriend in the other life, or it could be a whole Luke and Princess Leia kind of thing.
The second movie is all about their epic romance, Jim. It's coming. Don't worry.
That's awesome, but it didn't do much for this movie, I can tell you right now.
I agree with you. I did like the friendship between Thomas and the chubby kid. In fact, Paul Alderete, a big fan of the show and father of coining our 4 H's as a term, says this movie is identical to other post-apocalyptic teen flicks. Again, to your point, Steve. He says it was okay, some action, and an unlikely friendship, which is kind of interesting for a change. So what do you guys think about this friendship? I mean, Chub Chaser thing aside, maybe we're kind of inferring there. It did seem a little like that.
Yeah, that was a reach.
But rather than having the standard like romance angle, we got a good romance friendship. Did you find that more interesting than like a love triangle or less?
I found it actually kind of superfluous, or just it was the character, that kid, seemed so out of place with the other Glade people. They're athletic, tall, whatever Glade people. Where it was such a plot device. It seemed like he was there for one reason only, to make you feel attached to them, so they could bring some tragedy upon him later.
Yeah, that's.
Well, they had to
pretty
make
much
it more
true.
like Lord of the Flies and bring in, the Piggy.
Yeah, he was Piggy.
Piggy character, or the guy from the Goonies. What is it? Who was the one the kid who did the truffle shuffle?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
Hey Jim, Jim, when you get out of the maze, I need you to deliver this to someone for me, please. Please, when you get out of the maze, just give it to my dad for me, please.
You hold on to it. You're gonna make it, Chuck. You're gonna make it.
Okay, I'll hold on to it. All right. Okay, that's fine.
Now, was it actually a little bear the kid had that he carved out of soap?
I think it was a little man figure. It was a little chubby man figure.
I just saw a bear.
Okay. Well, hey, why not?
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't. I like that they didn't go down the boyfriend-girlfriend path, but I didn't think there was anything special about the Tom and Chuck relationship. And I agree with you, Steve. I think the addition of the Chuck character, while you're right, he seems so out of place. First of all, he seemed way younger than everybody else in the Glade. And I don't know, it's like the kid walked off the set of the Disney Channel, you know what I mean, into the Glade to do the show. Like, it just felt a little weird. I didn't mind the character so much. He was, I don't know, I think he was there to represent the innocence of children. But if there were more younger kids, then I would have believed it a little bit more.
Definitely sort of a mascot / pet.
Yeah.
Of the group.
Yeah. But and like I said, the girl character, I'm still trying to figure out what she was doing there. It was just kind of weird for me.
Yeah, and they make a big point of saying she's the last one. So
right.
Whatever the nefarious plot is, they were obviously ready to wrap up that cycle of it, and that was the last piece.
Right. So let's talk about wrapping up that cycle and moving on, right? So they decide to challenge what they've always done, right? And we get this conflict between the old guard way of thinking and the new guard way of thinking. Blah, blah, blah. They kill a griever. Blah, blah, blah. They get the device that leads them to the exit. Blah, 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 blah. They get out of the maze. Ta-da! They're in the control room, and everyone's dead. And at that point, we have the epic showdown, right, between the old thinking and the new. First things first, did any of you guys care, A, that the chunky kid died, and B, that the old guard kid died?
I think I was supposed to feel something for when Chuck, the little chubby kid, took the bullet at the end, but the movie was reaching so much to grab emotions. I really didn't feel it at all. I thought it was kind of, even though I kind of like their relationship, for some reason I didn't feel anything at the end. It's like, oh, really? You're gonna put this in here now to just to make me try to feel something? It's so obvious. It wasn't organic. I didn't feel it was earned, and I'm just okay. Let's get to the real ending so I can see what's gonna happen here.
But by that point of that movie, I was feeling like Chuck, along with some of the other sort of random, perfectly balanced multicultural cast.
Yeah.
But might as well have been wearing red shirts. Half of them as they entered the maze. It's like, well, I've never seen you before, and you're appearing in the movie now. Oh, you are so griever meat. And by that time, you just knew they were setting up Chuck for some big tragedy to pull at your heartstrings. But even before he died, my eye roll began going fully in the back of my head about the time they literally found a sign that said "exit" to get them out of the maze.
Yeah. Even the movie recognized that because they looked at the door. They all looked at the door and they said, "You're kidding me, right?" And they all walked through the door, which I thought was kind of cute. But that little figure that Chuck had that he tried to give to Thomas right at the beginning of the movie. I turned to Brad in the movie. I forget what I said. I said, "This is not the last time we're going to see that thing. I guarantee you we're going to see that in a big emotional scene at the end." And sure enough, from 100 miles away, you could see it coming. It just didn't work.
Yeah. And of course, he's killed by I forgot the
Galley.
Galley.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now talking about contrived things. It's taken this one group of people the entire movie to figure the way out of the maze.
Battle through all the grievers and all that stuff, right?
And the one guy who stays behind, doesn't want to go in the maze, has no one with him to battle grievers, pops up right behind him like he was tagging along the whole time.
Yeah, it was weird.
What the hell?
And when you talk about plot holes, okay, here's a huge one, right? So they needed the device to lift up the stone walls that then revealed the portrait hole thing that they could go through, right? And so one of the ways that they kill the grievers behind them is that the device gets too far ahead, the big stone slams down on one of the grievers, right? The stone wall in front of the hole. Squish. So how did he get in? I don't know. Maybe he got a similar device from one of the grievers. I don't think we saw one in his hand or anything. So I'm just like, well, wait. How did he even get down here? That makes no sense. And so my thinking, and I'm probably wrong, but my thinking was like, was he a plant? Like, was he there with instructions to keep the kids, you know, like out of the maze and out of like discovering, you know, things too early? That's kind of a reach, I think. But the plot hole is so horrible that I think my mind is grasping out to try and make sense of it.
Some logical.
Yeah, and I don't know that there is any logic to it. You know what I'm saying? But just bad storytelling.
My 2-cent bet is there are plants, but the people who are planted in there are actually Thomas and the girl, who we'll find out in book 2 or 3, have retained their memories the whole time. They're just manipulating everyone else in the group to make them run through the maze like mice.
Because we all know in order to cure this sickness, we have to study these teenagers' brains while they're undergoing stressful situation.
And I would assume that was a crock, right? That they made up the disease and the cure and everything.
Oh my gosh.
To find a reason for an entire society to build an entire maze city, which took I don't know how many resources and man hours and materials to fuck with 12 guys.
Yeah.
Just to screw with them for 3 years.
And then to add on top of that, the only thing the movie seemed interested in at the end was certainly was not giving us any kind of resolution or logical explanation as to what was going on, or to kind of give us an explanation for this mystery that had been going on for I don't know how many years did they say they were in the glade?
3?
Yeah,
I think it was 3.
At least 3, right? No, all they say at the end is some mumbo jumbo, blah blah blah. The Earth is dying. There's this disease. We're putting you under stress. We're testing you so we can find a cure. Blah 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 blah. And oh, by the way, don't forget to watch the sequel. She basically came out. I forget what she said, but
Wicked is good.
Oh my God.
Wicked is good.
No, but she actually said something like, "You're gonna find that out in the next part," or something like that. Right?
Guys, they did. I have breaking news from Paul Alderete again. He made my head literally almost explode from plot hole horribleness. So the slab slams down on the griever and destroys it, right? But the griever has the fucking device inside that unlocks it and raises the wall. So why does the wall slam down and squish it?
I don't know. Maybe they're not intelligent enough to use it. I don't know.
It's a proximity thing. We saw him walk up. It's like beep, 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 boop. Click. The door thing raises and...
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, crazy.
You're digging way too deep into
a
shallow kitty litter box.
I guess so. But yeah, so Jim, to your point, right? So they leave in the helicopter, whatever. We see, poor man's Glenn Close stand back up, and she's all like, and now on to phase 2. And we see the people getting up off the floor behind her and walking around. So what is the... I don't know.
What was the purpose of all that? Yeah.
I don't even know that I care enough to watch the second movie. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, I mean, you'd think that in a movie like this, at least they could do would be to flesh out some characters that you cared about. I really didn't care about the characters that much in this movie. I mean, I kind of understood their situation, but that's it. I didn't understand the character at all.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't care. I didn't care about the emotional scene at the end. I didn't really care. I just wanted to find out not from a character standpoint, like I wanted to see some kind of character resolution. I just wanted to see a mystery or a plot resolution, which we didn't get either. So on a lot of counts, this movie failed.
As much as I was sort of predisposed to not like this movie going in just because it was another YA movie, there was actually a point where they were building a mystery that I could almost get invested in. And, and even if I didn't love it, I was kind of waiting for to see who was behind it or what the reasoning was or some idea of why a society could be this desperate as to build this test maze to try to save itself. And the explanations that were given were so hinky. It was just like, just terminal eye rolls.
Yep.
Really? Oh, God, really? Oh, my gosh. I could have bought into it if they had given me something that made sense at the end.
I kind of knew we were in trouble when Thomas showed up and the girl showed up, and they started resorting to that kind of that flashbacky dream sequence, that jumbled quick cut of montage that happened when they fell asleep or whatever it was, which made absolutely no sense. You got these little snippets of people in lab coats and underwater and all that stuff. None of that stuff made sense at the end. You figured to tie back to some of that stuff. I didn't see any of that. I don't know what the water was about. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you guys, Brad, you and I saw it together, but Steve, when you saw it, at least where we saw it, the movie was very dark, like visibly dark. In a lot of the CGI sequences were done either in darkness or at night. I noticed, especially with the grievers, they were either in the maze in a kind of a darker areas of the maze, or the griever attack in the glade came at night. Again, a lot of movies do this. They either do it in the dark or in the rain or both.
Pacific Rim, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, just to kind of I don't know, to mask any imperfections maybe in the CGI. I don't know why they do that.
I do know this about the movies from some of the things that you've probably read from Jim. One of the reasons that they greenlighted the sequel so soon is that they apparently weren't expecting to do quite as well as it did because the books aren't as big as Twilight. And by the time they hit 32 million, they're like, go, greenlight sequel. And in part because apparently it was incredibly inexpensive to make. Like, the budget was half that, like 20 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So I can only presume that, one, you get cheap kid actors, and then other than, whatever piece of Central Park they filmed in, it's they had about the budget of an average episode of Once Upon a Time.
I even though it was maybe a smaller budget, I thought the effects were pretty good. I mean, I thought the maze effects were pretty good. I'm not gonna cast stones at the effects. I thought the grievers were pretty good. I mean, we've seen it 100 times, but it was still okay.
And why are the grievers half organic, half mechanical? What does that have to do with the technology of the future? That's the mystery I want.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Dauntless made it safely out of the maze. That's all I care about.
Dauntless, yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, as this genre kind of goes, I mean, we've seen several movies now. I know that Divergent got a lot of crap from people earlier this year, but I have to say, this movie against Divergent, I would take Divergent any day.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Steve. I'd put this one over The Giver as well.
Agreed.
You can have it. I was, it was on a strong thumbs up for The Giver. Just kind of all right.
Well, guys, any final thoughts on The Maze Runner before we move on to some pluggage?
Leave before the last 10 minutes, and you'll have had a good movie experience or a better one.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I don't know exactly where I would leave, but
before they find the exit sign.
Well, it's funny, when they looked at the exit sign, I looked at the exit sign down by the door in the theater, and I'm like, maybe I should go too. And I'm like, I'm like, fuck, I've invested this much in this film. I might as well stay and see how the sequel's set up. So,
wouldn't it be awesome if at the end of the movie, like when they push through the exit door, that like the house lights like instantly came up and all the exit doors in the movie theater opened up and then the credits started rolling? That would be awesome.
That would be funny. That would be funny. All right, well, let's move on then to some plugs. This is the part of the show where we like to plug cool stuff we think you should check out. I had my mind blown today with a video from Huffington Post Live. We'll post the link in the show notes, but it links Tangled, Little Mermaid, and Frozen. Are you ready for some mind blowage?
Sure.
Right. So the video posits, and this apparently has been pseudo-confirmed by some of the creative forces behind Frozen, that, okay, so spoilers, I should say, for Tangled, Little Mermaid, and Frozen. Steve, have you seen all three?
Of course.
Okay, all right, great.
So
we all know that in Frozen, Elsa and Anna's parents pass away, right? They leave on a ship. The ship gets swallowed by the ocean. Their parents die. Okay. Well, 3 years later, at the end of the film, we see the two main characters from Tangled show up, Rapunzel and whatever the hell her husband is.
Briefly, right? At a wedding.
Briefly, for the coronation of Anna. As Queen of Arendelle. Right, exactly. Well, apparently, Anna and Elsa's parents were on the way to the wedding of Rapunzel and her beau. And when their ship went down, turns out it may actually be the ship that Ariel finds and swims into with Flounder in The Little Mermaid. Ship has the same design, and one of the main writer.
You mean it's made out of wood?
Sort of dropped a hint that it may be the same ship. So watch the video. It's pretty interesting. There's also a theory that that their parents did not die. They washed ashore on a deserted jungle island where they had a baby boy who ended up being Tarzan because the parents look just like Elsa and Anna's parents, only, maybe a little bit older. Not only that, but then the baby boy grows up to be Tarzan, meets Jane, who looks a lot like Belle, and apparently is maybe her granddaughter from Beauty and the Beast, and that's why she has a tea set that looks like Mrs. Potts and Chip and the rest. So it's interesting.
Wait a minute, does he have a pet cat named Simba? Because I could totally see that. Tarzan and Simba.
Totally.
Brad, I'm going to validate your story here because I heard that a couple months ago, and one of the offices where I work, it has a lot of kids, and the video screens have for about 3 months straight played Frozen on a loop.
Mm-hmm.
I heard several times from several people, yes, they die in the shipwreck of the storm from The Little Mermaid, and they wash ashore and have a boy who's Tarzan on the way to the Tangled wedding. So that is definitely going around. I have heard that.
There you go. Well, it's interesting now because it's sort of been pseudo-concerned by some of the forces behind Frozen. So thought that was, I don't know, kind of interesting. It's a cool video, so I will post it in the show notes if you want to check it out. I am a little obsessed with Frozen. We were at a bar over the weekend, and Jim and one of our friends were having a little sauce and got the whole bar singing along to Let It Go. If we're Facebook friends, you may have seen the video on my wall. It's pretty funny to check out. But
I wasn't even drunk. I really
You
wasn't.
were not drunk. That's true.
You know what it was? I was high. I was on an adrenaline high from the football game.
That's right. We had just seen that Hail Mary to win the game 30 minutes before.
Like you stabbed my heart with an icy icicle.
Oh, like a frozen blast. All right. Anyway, Steve, what have you got? What do you want to plug?
Oh, I have a plug. I have a recommendation, and then I have an airing of grievances.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness.
Well, first of all, I'm going to plug the Sacramento Movie Bears. Generally, if you're in the Sacramento area, we see movies Tuesday nights, which is always $6 movie night here in Sacramento, or $5 if you have your Regal Crown Club card. But actually, tonight was the night that the group saw Maze Runner, which actually snuck out of halfway through. and in a couple weeks we'll be seeing Gone Girl.
Nice.
But hoping to see Skeleton Twins, but that was not playing because we're not quite that big of a market.
Right. Right.
So I had to rely on some other way of seeing some of those movies, which brings me to my recommendation. I had no idea that Terry Gilliam had a new movie out until I saw him interviewed on the Colbert Report last
Zero
week.
Theorem?
The Zero Theorem. But I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I'm flipping through my video on demand, and it's already on VOD and Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So you can see the new Terry Gilliam movie starring, I forget the actor's name, he was the lead gunslinger in Django, the German guy.
Oh, Christoph Waltz.
As well as, I'm going to forget another name, the bureaucrat lady from Snowpiercer.
Oh, yes.
We just saw this the other day. Tilda Swinton.
Yes,
Tilda Swinton pops up in this movie, and she is at her Tilda Swintoniest.
Nice.
Love Tilda Swinton.
Now, it's hard for me to tell how to recommend this movie because it's like Wes Anderson. You're either on board with Terry Gilliam or you're not.
Mm.
But if you're on board with Time Bandits, 12 Monkeys, Brazil especially, and you like visiting Terry Gilliam world, this is a must-see.
Cool. Excellent.
And
Totally.
I don't know if it's even in a theater near anybody, but it is on video on demand, and so I would recommend checking it out.
Sweet. I had no idea it was already on VOD. Definitely need to give that a watch this weekend.
It is. Now, area of grievances.
Yes.
First of all, I think that I must, on behalf of all Movie Bear podcast listeners and viewers, ask, when the hell are the damn T-shirts coming back? When will there be more T-shirts? Hands on fist. T-shirts.
Yes, you are right. You're absolutely right. So we've been giving some of them out slowly over the course of the year as prizes for leaving feedback and stuff on our iTunes page, blah, blah, blah. But yes, absolutely. We are coming back with a big contest, I'm thinking, for our episode 100 to give some shirts out. But we have a huge box of them, so I think we need maybe another vehicle for giving those away. So
how about a PayPal storefront?
A PayPal storefront?
Movie ticket money.
Well, that's a thought.
Yeah.
That's a thought.
All right, other grievances.
Maybe, yeah.
All the movies you guys were wrong about.
Go ahead.
Oh, boy. All right.
This must be a very short list. A very short list.
Okay, I will stand alone on this island, but the funniest movie of the summer, bar none, was A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh,
I laughed so hard there were tears rolling down my eyes, down my cheeks.
Aw.
He had me at the shooting gallery.
That was at the end of the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah,
They circled back around to it at the Stinger.
Right. It was It was like early on, I thought. Right?
During the county fair, it was so wrong. It was just right.
I did laugh at that part. It was one of the few laughs that I did.
Very uncomfortable laugh.
Seth MacFarlane is great with uncomfortable because he's one of the kind of guys who he knows where offensive is, and he loves dancing on that line. He loves grabbing you and bringing you over with him, and then back again. And for me, I think he actually did that pretty well. If you're on board with it, you might like it. I know I kind of stand alone on that island, but I was laughing out loud, tears rolling down my cheeks. I won't try to defend Lucy. I like that I would do. I wouldn't even try to defend Lucy. So
tomato meter doesn't exactly bear you out on that one.
so that is the end now of okay, to sort of jump streams here, since I'm looking very much forward to the return of Movie Bears TV because we've had this week the premiere of Gotham.
Yes.
Sort of Big Bang Theory. Oh gosh, let's see. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably on as we speak.
Yeah, definitely. And we had an episode.
Funny you bring that up.
We had an episode last night, of course, where we talked about Red Band Society and Transparent, as well as some other stuff we've been watching. But up for next week, we're going to be discussing Gotham, What else are we talking about? Oh, the premiere of Survivor. We've got all kinds of stuff coming next week. We've got a lot of premieres coming in. So definitely, Gotham is cooling its heels in the DVR right now. I haven't watched it yet.
There you go. And props to whichever one of your co-hosts, at least always brings up Scandal. That's the one I'll say. I want more Scandal.
That is Stephen. Well, he was formerly known as Stephen Konchelik. He is now Stephen Heslin. He's taken the last name of his loving husband, which is awesome. So I'm sure he will appreciate the scandalous shout-out because he does love that show quite a bit. So
props to Scandal. So looking forward to the next MBP TV.
Awesome. We'll tune in next week for sure. All right. Jim, what have you got for your plug this week?
No more grievances? No more grievances?
Jim, are you holding up your thumb drive because of Lucy?
My thumb drive, yeah. It's my Lucy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not black and sparkly like that one was, but I can get the spray paint out like they did.
There you go.
Let's see. My plug is regular listeners have probably heard Brad or I talk about a local independent movie theater here called The Loft in Tucson. Well, The Loft is having their own film festival coming up next month, October 16th through 19th. I was looking at the lineup of films that are coming here, and there's some really cool ones that are coming. And Brad, you and I probably should talk about seeing some of these maybe. They've got some that were at South by Southwest that I did not get to see. Fort Tilden is one. Kumiko the Treasure Hunter is one. There's some new ones that are making the festival circuit now. One that you may have heard of called The Babadook.
Yes, totally.
Which is an Australian kind of terror in the night horror movie. It's getting really good buzz. It's playing at Fantastic Fest now. I think Will's probably seen it already. A couple of movies coming out. There's one from Studio Ghibli from director Isao Takahata, who did Grave of the Fireflies, called The Tale of Princess Kaguya. That looks really, really cool. Some amazing. I've seen the trailer. It looks like a wonderful story and some amazing animation in that. A new Shailene Woodley movie called White Bird in a Blizzard, and then there's some documentaries coming out. The Internet's Own Boy, which is a story of Aaron Schwartz. He was the teen internet activist who was indicted on federal charges. Kind of a tragic story. There's one called The Mudbloods, which follows UCLA's Quidditch team. They actually have a Quidditch team, and they went to the World Cup. So that sounds interesting. The fact that there even is a real-life Quidditch team is kind of surprising.
Totally.
There's a movie called I Am Big Bird about Carol Spinney, who's the guy inside Big Bird since 1969.
Wow.
He's like in his 80s and still going. And then there's one called Dinosaur 13, which is kind of a battle between the paleontologists and all the red tape that they had to battle over this 65 million year old Tyrannosaurus skeleton that they found. It sounds really interesting. And one other thing they have is, it's kind of an older movie, but we saw Nebraska. We love Nebraska, yes.
Yes, and your hat is, of course, in the background, which you're getting right now. Nice.
That is awesome.
Bruce Dern and Stacy Keach are going to be at the Loft for a special screening of Nebraska.
Really? That's
maybe
awesome.
I can get my hat signed.
Oh, that would be perfect. Totally.
So anyway, that's the Loft Film Festival. It's coming up October 16th through 19th. You can buy like a whole festival pass for somewhere around $100, but if you don't want to go that rich, and if you're local, you can buy individual screening tickets. So check it out.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps us up for this week. Steve, I just wanted to thank you again for joining us. It was a hell of a lot of fun having you this week. Your donut hijinks are always welcome on the show. Let us know if there's another film you want to join us for, okay?
Hey, guys, it was a pleasure. Hopefully it won't be so long this time. I had a blast, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll definitely need to get you in here more regularly. Cause,
well, wherever you are, you're having a good night, Will.
Hopefully he's sleeping by now.
Gnome Will here.
No, Will is not sleeping right now.
Wherever you are.
Oh, no. Is he chatting with us?
Will is actually in a screening right now of a movie called Housebound, a New Zealand horror that is a wry comedy as well as a horror movie. Says he's chugging coffee like his life depends on it. Big love to our viewers, and he'll see us next week. So
Awesome.
Definitely looking forward to that. Also, in response to the drinking game, Will says that he thinks we should do a drunk podcast sometime where we play the MBP drinking game and just get totally sloshed on air. That could be interesting and possibly very embarrassing.
Dangerous.
So.
Drunk shirtless podcast.
Oh, shirtless podcast. You know, that idea has come up before. It could happen. Nipples out. All right.
Maybe if enough listeners give us a rating and a comments on our iTunes page for the webcast, we might consider a drunken shirtless podcast.
There we go. I'm going to call it right now. If we get to 50 reviews and comments on our iTunes feed, we will have a drunken shirtless podcast. So if you want to see it happen, let's see some ratings happen.
Start clicking to iTunes. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Steve's already showing a little skin there. Nice. Nice.
Had a costume malfunction.
I said nice. Buy the cookie. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.